You have exactly 48 hours to remove that eyesore, or it might suffer the same electrical accident as Mr. Patterson's place. Insurance companies are so helpful when community safety is involved. Those were the exact words Bethany Crankshaw whispered to me, standing on my federal asset dock, her manicured fingers stabbing at my boathouse, like she was casting some kind of curse. You want to talk about audacity? She had no clue she was threatening a DEA agent, no clue she was being recorded, and absolutely no clue that her accidents were already under federal investigation. The whole scene was almost funny if it wasn't so damn dangerous. The morning mist was still hugging Lake Grandview when she delivered her little threat, her pearl-white Tesla parked behind her, shining like a trophy in the sun. You could smell the mix of salt air and her suffocating perfume, and off in the distance, I could hear the whir of golf carts zipping around the marina. But all I could focus on was the way she confessed to arson like she was asking someone to pass the salt. That casual. You ever get that feeling where you know you're at the edge of something huge, and one step forward changes your whole life? Yeah, that was me, coffee in hand, just trying to remember what peace even felt like. But let me back up a sec, because to really get why this moment was wild, you need to understand how I landed here. See, 3 months earlier, I'd walked into a federal asset auction in Tampa with a cashier's check and a half-baked plan to disappear from the chaos of my DEA career. Lot number 247 was a luxury boathouse, marina access, helicopter pad, secure storage, the works. It had belonged to Vincent the Anchor Moretti, a guy who'd built his own empire out of cocaine and dirty cash. The DEA scrubbed it clean. The auctioneer kicked things off at 50 grand, and when the dust settled, I'd won it $340,000. A bargain if you don't count the drama that came with it. Lake Grandview isn't just some fancy marina. It's where Florida's elite come to play, with 200 luxury boats bobbing in crystalline water, helicopters dropping folks off like it's nothing, a PGA-level golf course curling around the whole place. My boathouse, at the end of Dock 7, was a fortress. Moretti had it modified with reinforced walls, hidden compartments, security systems straight out of a spy movie. But what really sold me was the legit stuff: deep water access, commercial-grade electrical, a boat lift that could handle a 60-foot yacht. It felt like a place where nothing bad could touch you, until Bethany showed up. She made her entrance on a Tuesday morning, 9:17 a.m., the gravel crunching under her Tesla's wheels. Those gull-wing doors opened, and out stepped a woman who looked like she owned not just the car, but the whole damn world. Designer tennis outfit, flawless hair, a bracelet that probably cost more than most folks' cars. 2 board members trailed behind her, eyes glued to the dock like kids being dragged to the principal's office. "Mr. Montgomery," she called, voice smooth as silk but sharp underneath. "I'm Bethany Crankshaw, HOA president. We need to discuss your situation." She drew out that word, situation, like it was a warning, not a question. 20 years of federal work, I know what threats sound like, even when they come dressed up in country club language. She slid a manila folder toward me. Looked official, but something about it was off. "That structure violates our maritime aesthetics covenant," she said, waving toward my boathouse. "Those modifications are completely inappropriate. You'll need to remove them, or surrender the structure to community management." I took a long sip of my coffee, tasting the bitter edge that always hits when someone tries to push you around on your own property. "Mrs. Crankshaw, this property was purchased through federal channels. Every mod was pre-approved by authorities you probably don't want to meet." For a second, her plastic smile slipped, just a flicker, but she caught herself quick. Then she dropped the real hammer. Mr. Patterson thought his war metals would protect his boathouse, too. Amazing how structures become fire hazards when owners don't cooperate. Her words just hung there, thick in the humid air. One board member looked ready to be sick. The other kept staring at his shoes. She wasn't done. She slid over another piece of paper, a voluntary structure surrender agreement. "Sign here, we take over, and you don't have to worry about insurance adjusters after an accident," she said, voice syrupy sweet. I didn't touch it. "And if I don't sign?" I asked. Her smile got predatory. "Well, structures that don't meet standards tend to develop problems. Electrical problems, specifically." That was her game. Nice and neat. Threaten, harass, then destroy. But she picked the wrong guy this time. After she left, I made calls. First my attorney, then an old private investigator from my DEA days. By noon, I knew what happened to Mr. Patterson. War hero, boathouse owner, until an electrical short burned his place to the ground at 2:37 a.m. Insurance paid out $2.1 million, but the property was snapped up by Grandview Waterfront Holdings LLC for a song, then handed over to the HOA. Patterson now lived in a one-bedroom, his life's treasures gone, just ashes and paperwork left behind. And he wasn't the only one. In 3 years, four waterfront owners lost everything in accidents between 2 and 5 a.m., always involving electrical or fuel systems, always a total loss, always bought up by the same shell company and funneled to the HOA. I traced the notary on the paperwork to Dale Crankshaw, Bethany's husband, a senior insurance adjuster for the same company paying out the settlements. These folks ran their scheme like a cartel. Target the weak, harass, burn, buy cheap, and rake in millions in fraud. You know what I mean? It was too neat, too practiced. My DEA instincts screamed arson, racketeering, and terrorism. Then my phone rang. Unknown number, local area code. Mr. Montgomery? This is Harold Patterson. I heard you bought the Moretti place. I need to warn you about something. 20 minutes later, he sat at my table, a box of documents and a haunted look in his eyes. He showed me photos of masked figures at his boathouse the night before the fire. That's Bethany's husband, he said, pointing at a grainy shot of a man messing with electrical wires. He's the adjuster who processed my claim. Caught him on camera, showed the police. They said it was inconclusive. He handed me everything, fire reports, insurance docs, threatening letters. She starts with violations, then ramps it up until you break or burn. The Richardson family, the Williams family, the Mitchells, they all got the same treatment. But you look like a guy who can fight back. I spent that night going through his evidence, realizing the pattern was even uglier than I'd thought. Standard HOA harassment, then veiled threats, then accidents. For families, nearly $10 million in insurance. All of it funneled back into HOA hands. I called someone I hadn't talked to in years, Captain Sarah Mitchell, U.S. Coast Guard. She listened, sharp as ever, and when I finished, she said, "You've got a case for federal terrorism charges. How much evidence do you have?" "Enough," I told her, "but I want to catch them in the act." Next day, Sarah's tech team rolled in undercover as marina workers. Cameras, mics, motion sensors, the whole 9 yards. I installed my own backups, just in case. That night, I got a text. Emergency HOA meeting. Community compliance required. 7 p.m. BC. The trap was set. The community center was packed, residents whispering and watching. Bethany stood at the front, charts and photos behind her. My boathouse, circled in red, arrows everywhere. "Mr. Montgomery's structure threatens our community. The HOA will assume responsibility for this liability," she announced. I stood up, letting my voice carry. "Before you take federal property, you should know this boathouse is under the protection of the United States Coast Guard, DEA, and FBI." The room went cold. Someone actually gasped. Bethany tried to laugh it off, but then Sarah walked in, Coast Guard uniform catching the light, flanked by agents. "Mrs. Crankshaw," Sarah said, "I'm Captain Mitchell, United States Coast Guard. Any interference with this property constitutes obstruction of justice and destruction of federal property, punishable by 20 years. Dale made a break for the door, but agents were already blocking it. Bethany and Dale were cuffed right there, the whole community watching. Sarah took over. "Tonight, you witnessed the takedown of one of the largest maritime insurance fraud operations in the country." Slide after slide showed bank records, fake companies, photos of Dale at the scene of the fires, audio of Bethany plotting with other HOA presidents. The Crankshaws and their network are responsible for over 87 fires, $43 million in fraudulent claims, spanning 7 states. Faces in the room went pale, residents realizing this wasn't just HOA bullying. This was organized crime, terrorism, right in their own backyard. Victims stood up, Mrs. Richardson, the Williams family, folks who'd lost everything. "You destroyed our family for money," Mrs. Richardson cried. Bethany tried to defend herself, but the cuffs and evidence made it impossible. Sarah explained how assets, homes, cars, jewelry, $38 million in bank accounts, were being seized to compensate victims. For once, justice felt real. By the time the Coast Guard wrapped up, The Crankshaws were on their way to federal prison, and the entire community sat stunned, processing what they'd just seen. Patterson, the old soldier, finally got his chance to speak. You took everything because you thought I was weak. But today, you lost everything. You could feel the weight lift off the room. 6 months later, the sunrise over Lake Grandview looked different. Victims got their money back. More, even, thanks to asset forfeiture. Harold Patterson bought a bigger house, started a new family, and donated to veterans groups. Sarah and I, we launched a federal consulting firm, helping waterfront communities protect themselves. Partners, in every sense. The best part? That case changed everything. Federal law now requires audits for HOA-controlled waterfront properties, and it's a federal crime to coerce owners with threats of accidents. The kids who lost homes went to college on federal scholarships. The families rebuilt. Justice, with interest. So if you're listening to this and thinking your quiet neighbor's just some retiree with a coffee mug, think again. Sometimes the folks who look the most ordinary are the ones holding back the flood of corruption. And sometimes, justice really does show up in a Coast Guard uniform when you need it most. Now, here's where I hand it over to you. Ever had an HOA or a community bully try to take what's yours? Ever watched justice finally catch up with someone who thought they were untouchable? Drop your story in the comments. Tell me, do you think the punishment fit the crime? What would you do if someone threatened your home, your family, your life? I want to hear about it. Because in my book, justice isn't just about restoring what was lost. It's about making damn sure it never happens again.